Welcome to Dental All-Stars. I'm Eric Vickery, lead mastery coach at All-Star Dental Academy and president of Vickery Coaching. And I'm very excited about our interview, our guest today, as we're going to talk about raising the level of excellence and productivity in your practice today. So Dr. Rick Simcock was raised in Walla Walla, Washington. He went to high school in Walla Walla, Washington. He went to college in Walla Walla, Washington, and he graduated college in 1988. Following college, he received his DDS degree from Loma Linda University in Southern California in 1997. After he graduated, he was accepted for a 2-year postgraduate residency in endodontics at Albert Einstein Medical Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think that's on the East Coast, what they say is only the wicked smart people go there. So Albert Einstein, that seems like, a lot to live up to. So he then completed his residency in 1999 and received his certificate in endodontics. In August of 99, he then moved with his family to Skagit County to open his endodontic practice there. In 2016, he opened another practice in Bellingham, Washington. And in 2020, he started an endodontic coaching program called Endo to Endo, which focuses on clinical efficiency and scheduling to maximize productivity. So Dr. Simcock and his wonderful wife, Hannah, have 2 children, Ethan and Lindsay, and they enjoy all the activities that you can imagine in Washington, the Pacific Northwest, including skiing, snowboarding, wake surfing. I've seen the Instagram pictures, Doctor, of you doing all these things. His personal interests also include music, mountain biking, running, reading, and traveling. So, and I think you're in a band. We'll talk about that at some point too. So welcome, Dr. Simcock. And I'm very excited to get into this subject of just exceeding and raising that bar of excellence and productivity in your practice today. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. This is going to be fun. And hey, you nailed that intro. We didn't have to even start it over. That's perfect.
Hey, first take, right? All right, awesome. It's amazing, the bios that I get to read. I love it. I mean, it brings credibility. So let's swing for the fences here right out the gate. I mean, you obviously have done this really well. I've seen your numbers. I worked with you for a while. Your productivity is through the roof. I tell other endodontists and doctors what you're doing, and it blows their mind. They go, there's no way. So we're going to get into this. We're going to share some secrets, and hopefully those listening get huge value out of listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube. So let's start with the home run here. What has been one of the biggest aha moments just in your life in general?
Well, I go back to when I finished my residency. We know all the clinical studies, we know the basics, the science, and all those things. Mm-hmm. And when you start a practice coming and all you've known is being in school, all of a sudden there's this like stark realization that, oh my word, I'm running a business now. And I quickly, every motivational speaker, anybody talking about practice management, I just literally had to, every AAE meeting, that's where I would go and listen to all these people. I heard Ace Gorig speak, mm-hmm. and he's been a huge mentor to me. And I think the biggest aha was, to realize that we all have blind spots. Mm-hmm. And for me, the blind spot was, how do I run a productive business and not be married to my practice, 24/7, 365 days a year. That's not good life balance. And so I think the aha moment for me was surrounding myself with people that could help me see things that I couldn't see. And that was huge. And I've had several other mentors that were the same way. And I think that's the gift, is being able to put people around you that can help you see what you don't know.
Beautifully said. We don't know what we don't know. Yeah. And let me ask you a question. Do you do that say, okay, now teach me everything you know, guru, and then I'm going to go do it myself? Or are you more of a, hey, I'm going to bring you as part of my team and you're going to, like Strength Finder, right? You're going to be strong where I'm weak. What's your approach?
Yeah. So, a lot of the things I wanted to keep my individuality, because there's a lot of things that are suggestions that really didn't apply to my situation and my practice. And so I think I kind of piecemealed, some philosophy from this person, some philosophy from that person, some ideas from this person,
Yep.
And then coupled with your own experience, that's the perfect sauce, right? It's like take the input and then apply it to your own situation. And I think that's what good coaches do in basketball, football, any sport, is that they take what's there and then build on it. And not a cookie cutter approach to your golf swing or basketball plays. You want to go with the strength of what's happening, and I think that's been the fun part. I kind of want to be a basketball coach too. I think I'd love to get involved in yelling at refs and all those fun things.
Well, as a coach, you will have to have that natural skill set to do that well. I just, on a side note, I figured you would say, I want to teach people how to play the bass in a
Yes.
band, right?
Well, and my whole music career from high school, I mean, I was a classically trained pianist and did competitions. I had a degree in music in early keyboard performance. So I was playing pipe organs and harpsichords, and I just got to that point. So another aha moment was realizing that I didn't want music to be my professional career. I mean, I went back to New York and spent a summer at Eastman School of Music, and there was all these people with PhDs and master's degrees and unemployed. And I really was like, wow, I love music, but I don't love it that much.
Yeah.
So I realized that I could make music a hobby, and luckily I've been able to just be a part of a great group of people, and we all have day jobs. So, we're not selling out major arenas by any.
But you still get to do something you love because you have really good life work balance.
Yeah.
I deal this all the time, and more into the life coaching side, I'll be honest, but talk with people about, I just don't love what I do. And, we coach dental team members, life coaching side of things all the time, happy in the home, happy at work, happy at home. We work on both areas of this. And we'll use the analogy of ISO. It comes from a book, ISO. So what are your interests? I really love music. What's your skills? Am I good at it? Yeah, skills. Opportunity. Oh, there's not really work out there for that. So yeah. ISO, the circles overlap. What are your interests? What are your skills? What are your opportunity? And a lot of times people go, I'm really good at this job, but I don't love it. It doesn't interest me. And so that interest category that bubble starts to disappear and separate, move away. And so how have you pulled the interest of life back into the practice? Like, how have you found joy in what you're doing, even though somebody might say, wow, endodontics, you're doing the same thing all day long? How do you create joy in that?
Well, I think for me, it's finding, that I'm out of the office more than I'm actually in the office. I'm a part of the business. I'm not running the day-to-day things that have to get done. So I think training your team and your staff is huge to make that. So, my job, if you look at my job description, and I try and write a job description for myself every year, it's getting smaller and smaller. I like to lead the team, like to sketch the picture, and then I want my team to color that picture. And if we need to, switch colors or switch vibes, that's something that I want my team to do. So for me, having time out of the office allowed me to feel free. It allowed me to feel like, wow, I've got extra days here. I want to start playing, more music.
Yeah.
I want to take trips. I want to spend time enjoying all the great things, because this whole myth of we work like to the bone, right? And then there's this magical moment of when retirement hits. And you've heard story after story, and probably have worked with clients that they just never learned to enjoy their life in the process. And, at some point, your job will be done. And if you haven't learned to enjoy your life and love your life, it's going to be a total mess.
Yeah.
And so I think, and luckily I've had the good mentors, and Kendrick Mercer and Kyle Mercer and the Garden Company, and as well as Ace Gorig, and that philosophy just comes through. And if your mind's open, you just go, wow, that sounds like a great way to live your life, and boom, it's kind of the way it happens.
So good, so good. reminded back into North Carolina about, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. And I had this almost same conversation, but on the opposite side of it with a dentist, pretty successful dentist who had gone back to school after being in finance and knew the numbers in the business, but just wasn't happy. And we had this conversation. I'm like, what other profession can you work 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and make a decent living and then be able to go and enjoy your life? Now it's finding out how you do that job well, 4 days a week, to fall in love with it, right? Create the opportunity, create the skills, and then the interest will follow. So what have you found is your balance with number of days you work so that you get to enjoy things and still make a decent living? How has that worked for you? What have you discovered?
I am in I'm the best version of myself when I'm spending about 2.5 days a week with the practice. And to be honest with you, I kind of like 2 days a week, because at the level that patient levels when I'm in the practice, to do that 4 days a week, I think I would be exhausted just from a physical standpoint.
Yeah.
So my jam is to be in the office 2 days a week with patients, and then devote a half day a week to do team building, to work on skills with the staff on things that I want them to take over, and constantly keep creating that situation. And then when you bring new employees on, that probably goes to 3 days a week, because you just really want to keep sharing what you want. And so, but and that's why having an associate is so important, is that I don't really want to work 5 days a week, and I don't think anybody should do that at the pace and the energy that we do.
So I can hear it. People listening right now, just going, what are you talking about working 2 days a week? How do you do that? How do you make a living? How do you afford the beautiful art behind you, right? Working 2 days a week. So what's your secret? What's your mojo then?
Well, so when I have an associate, it's 2 days a week. I've been doing 3 days a week, and that when you get efficient doing one thing, and so it's difficult for people to understand that it's so easy to get good at one thing and efficient, because we're just doing basically one thing. Yes, there's retreatments and there's surgery and all those things, but and it's more of a feeling of like being efficient and productive. We're not rushing and hurrying, but I just find that nice pace of a certain number of cases a day. And I'm the last one to get to the office, and I'm the first one to leave. And I think trying to get out of debt and all those things, I think sometimes we as doctors spend too much money. We buy the house, we buy the cars, we buy this and that, and we have such a economic pressure on our shoulders that when we walk into the practice, we just feel chained to it, and we feel just trapped. And I think the past several years of my life is feeling that freedom start to go, and I interact with patients differently, and just to have that freedom to know that if you have a day of 6 or 7 root canals, that's great. It's not like, oh my word, I'm not going to be able to pay for that, or that economic tension that we can sometimes bring upon ourselves.
So when you say 6 or 7, you say it like it's a bad thing. Some people out there going, I do 4 or 5 root canals a day. So what do you mean 6 or 7? What's a good day for you?
Well, my favorite number of cases is probably 11 to 12. That is, and we just train our referring dentists, and they train us, and we just really want that close relationship. So when they have a patient in their chair and needs a root canal, we want them to call us, and so we always save time in our schedule for certain docs. And I had an opportunity to speak with some general dentists in California, and I said, hey, find your specialty team, and tell them what you want. And because sometimes endodontists get the feeling that this referring dentist sends a few here, a few there, a few to this one, and I said,
whoever has the next opening.
Yeah, which is great if a patient's in pain. But I said, you know what, if you're sending all your cases to a particular endodontist or an oral surgeon, they should be able to see your emergencies whenever you need them. I mean, that's the business that we want to be in. Is why we don't want that patient to go anywhere else. We're going to take care of them today or first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
We can't say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Well, right now everybody's so backed up. I mean, I'm hearing endodontists that are scheduling people 2 months out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most dangerous thing to be in. And I get it. It feels good to look at your calendar and go, oh my word, I'm so busy. But we don't like to be booked out more than 2 days.
Yeah, it actually increases the chance of cancellations and no-shows when you're booked out that far in those sorts of situations. So that motivation lasts 7 days. So here's my next question that I hear people out there thinking right now. How do you see 11 endo patients a day? Are you just opening and draining and moving on? Or are you actually completing these? How do you do that? What is that even possible?
Well, first off, I guess I've always kind of had this idea that clinical efficiency is the backbone of everything. And if it takes you 2 hours to do a root canal, I guarantee there's things that could be changed, adapted, adopted, let go of that you're doing, that it just doesn't make sense to be that long with a patient. And first thing is always excellence in care, and the patient comes first. And so, but we have just gotten to this pace with the technology that's available to us now, that there's really nothing to do past a certain amount of time. The tooth is clean, it's ready to be filled. And yeah, there's a few cases that we can't single visit like that, but patients want to just come into the practice, get the root canal, and go on their way.
Yes.
And the more friction or obstacles that we throw in there, we have to do a consult first. That's all just training, getting your team to know what the feeling is of, that sounds like a root canal. Maybe we should have you in just to take a look to see, what's going on. But my team is just so great at just knowing what the symptoms of a root canal are. And I spend a lot of time with them on that to make sure, because it makes my life easier. So I don't have to always be seeing consults all the time. So, but yeah, it's single visit, start to finish. And
Amazing.
it's not as hard as it seems. But again, if you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, there it is again. Yes.
That's the thing.
So, and since you've brought that up, I'll talk about this. This relates to definition of insanity. We talk about this again, life coaching or executive or professional coaching, but the results you're getting today, 5 or 6 root canals a day, right? The results you're getting today are based upon the actions that you're taking, not the knowledge you have. Oh, I know I could do 11, but I'm doing 5. It's the actions you're taking. Okay. And those actions you're taking are stemming from the beliefs you have about you. So really what you're saying is, I'm going to challenge the belief you have, therefore create a different action to create a different result. And most people base their belief on whatever's pouring into them. The social media documentary, exposed us on that. Whatever you're going to believe, you're going to give more of what you believe and more of what you believe. Well, all of a sudden, boop, oh, wait, here's a different thought. I'm listening to a podcast and here's a different thought. Ooh, what's my action, going to be because of this? Will it change my results? So I put that out there for those of you listening that are thinking, yeah, I don't believe that. I can't do that. I've worked with several clients now in the same exact boat that are doing exactly what you're doing on the endo side that are phenomenal. And I think you're doing it top notch. And I think it's impressive. And I think you're doing it so well that you're actually helping other offices do this too. And not, you're here sharing that information, but what are some things you're seeing other offices do? You've uncovered some things that you thought, okay, you don't know what you don't know, right? Here's some bad knowledge, some bad beliefs. So what have you picked up out there that you've seen in other offices that you've worked with?
A couple of things jump to my mind. One is this whole idea of having to do a consult first and then do a treatment. So, and again, getting the team being able to make that kind of instinct. They're not diagnosing, but they're getting a feel for what's a treatment and what's not, and then preparing the patient for that.
And do you mean on the phone, chair side?
Yes.
Where is that happening?
Yeah, we want all of those things to be happening in the phone conversation. We actually time everything in the practice. And so we realized that our front team spends on average 40 minutes per patient
Wow.
coming in. So that's like getting all the symptoms, name, referring dentist, going through our kind of call sheet, that all the important things, going into their medical history, dental history. So all these things that, hey, we're going to check your insurance and find out, what your plan is, and we'll get back to you with that. But so if we add up all that time, that's 40 minutes. And many practices end up having, oh, you need an appointment at 8 o'clock. All right, we'll come in at 8 o'clock. And so then the process starts when the patient is down in the chair.
Now it's molasses.
Yeah, now it is a 2-hour appointment because you've
I
got to
get it.
call insurance, you got to talk fees. The patient might decide they don't want to save their tooth.
Yep.
And you just wasted a lot of important time, and we can't get that back.
So we're taking the great call process that All Star trains on, and we're making it even greater. We're really looking for some certain symptoms and key talking points to differentiate what type of patient is this going to be for this practice. Now, on a side note, for the GPs who are listening, in our coaching, we talk about this as exam typing. And especially if you have multiple doctors, who's going to be doing what? And this is a phenomenal system, just like periotyping, but we can exam type somewhat on the phone, but then you have a team member who can complete that exam typing in the practice. So we're not wasting hours of doctor time and being so inefficient with new patients. We're booked out so far right now, and you're making a new patient wait a month or 2 months, and you've got an hour open in your hygiene schedule tomorrow. That just doesn't make sense to me. Now, some people hear that and go, yeah, my belief, Eric, is something totally different than yours, which means you think I'm talking about doing a cleaning and hygiene tomorrow. No, I'm thinking about you using your hygienist to do something different. Now, guess what I'm going to ask you next? So you have a hygienist as an endodontist in an endo practice. Tell us about that.
Oh, my word. I've been an endodontist for 23 years. I know I'm dating myself, and I'm a grandpa too. So it all kind of makes sense, but I don't feel 52 years old. But anyway, I think I'm always looking for things that I can change that make my life easier or less stressful, meaning it might take energy to give an injection to a nervous patient. And I just had this idea. I know a few other of my colleagues have had that idea. And of course, everybody looks at, oh, your overhead. Why would you do that? And boy, let me tell you, it was the absolute best thing I've ever done for my own sanity. And she did not want to practice hygiene anymore. She physically was just like, I can't do this 4 days a week. I really love giving injections. I've always loved giving injections. And so it was just a perfect fit. And what it did for me is it changed my relationship with the patients just a little bit. And she's so gentle. And, when she walks into the room and introduces herself, and I think people just feel comfort. And, sometimes I will do supplemental anesthesia. So intraosseous anesthesia on some hot teeth. I'll do that, but they're already completely numb.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very easy procedure. So it's just freed up a lot of time. And I guess now we're getting to the point where it frees up maybe to add another emergency patient or a few more consults, because it just speeds up my day.
Well, when we did the math on this, you and I were looking at, well, what are we going to pay them? What's that going to be per day? Let's say worst case scenario. Absolute worst case scenario, $500 a day. That would be worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. And now by your schedule, you're doing one more root canal a day, at least. It's covered. It's more than covered. It's more than paying for itself. Yeah.
And the emotional aspect, I think that's one of the things that I struggled and resisted the most, which is silly. We're dentists. We get people numb all day long.
Yeah.
But then when you add the endodontic anxiety patients in there, and so not only are they afraid in dental chairs, but now they heard the forbidden root canal word, and so now you're dealing with a very excited patient, and that all day long can take a toll. And I did it for many years, and it was just like, hey, I can have a team member assist me with that.
There you go.
And now I literally just walk into the practice. It's so much fun. I did have to get somebody numb the other day. because she was
It's so
busy.
funny to hear you say that. I did have to get someone numb the other day. You're an endodontist.
It was like, it was just one of those things. And I think that when you have a coach or somebody in your life that shares things with you, that helps you look at things a little bit differently, and having a hygienist isn't for everybody in their practice.
Yeah.
But man, it was such a great development in my practice. And so now my wheels are kind of going, well, maybe this is a great practice model to keep expanding on. So
you took the belief of something, the information you're getting, and went, okay, can I put this in action? I got a different result. I think it was amazing. And I totally derailed our conversation on the truth. You said two things. I know I typed two about what you're uncovering with practice. Number one was having to do consults and then treatment. What was the second thing? Because I don't think we got to it.
Yeah, just the amount of wasted time. And this probably could have applied to all of us, whether you're a general dentist, oral surgeon. I mean, we think so many things are so important, and we get to practice and a staff member might have an issue. We might have a referral that has to talk and talk to you about something, a case. Emails, video games, social media, all these things that just drain our time. And, I kind of like the lawyers that are patients, because they know what time they sat down. And as soon as you're done, they're looking at their clock and they're going, okay, I understand the business here. And I think the aha moment is when people realize how much time is wasted either in inefficient systems or not an attention to, like, hey, when I walk in this practice, 98 to 99% of my time, I want to be treating patients.
Yep.
And everything else can be done by the staff. If I need to speak with somebody, it can happen when we're done with patients for the day. If it's emergency, I'd like to train my staff how to handle an irate anything, salesperson, rep. I don't need to speak with anybody when I'm treating patients unless it's, unless the building's on fire. And I probably should get up and go do something. So I think, on average, I think what we see is about 2 to 3 hours in a given 9-hour day where the dentist, endodontist is doing things that his team could be doing. Wow. And that's a lot of time every day.
So I'm sure you've heard this before. Just 10 minutes wasted every day, 4 days a week for the whole year is equivalent to taking a week's vacation that year. Yeah. Just 10 minutes. So if you're wasting an hour or 2 hours a day, the inefficiency is through the roof. You want to take one more day off? Just be more efficient in the 3 that you work. Yeah. Right. And I'm reminded, my very, very first mentor, my father-in-law, who's a dentist, Dr. Bryant, he said, I want to do what I'm legally obligated to do. No more, no less. So the team is where everything happens. And so I see so many dentists. I need to talk to the patient. They need to hear me and my voice, and they need to be comfortable with me. I mean, the Mayo Clinic's pretty successful as the Mayo Clinic. I don't know who the doctors are, but they're pretty successful, So it doesn't have to be all about you. It can be about your practice. It can be about your team. And I love that mentality. Now, the rubber meets the road with the doctor being, you can't have a great team and a schmuck for a dentist, come in and ruin it. It's all got to be synergistic. It's got to be equal. It's got to be working together. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I always I do provide the root canal treatment.
Yes.
I'd love to get that on somebody else's hands, but no.
How do I do root canals without having to do root canals? That's the next question.
Yeah. Just think about it really hard and concentrate.
It'll just happen.
But what I realized is that, when you look at my time with the patient's in the practice about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I'm with the patient now with a hygienist. I go in and make the diagnosis, ask if they have any questions. I'm with the patient about 20, 24, 23 minutes on average. And that's when I walk in, start the timer. When I leave to go to a consult, it stops. And then when I go back in, it's going. So anytime I leave the operatory. So I'm with that patient about 23 to 24 minutes. And the staff is doing everything else.
So right now you're doing molar endo on number 2. You're telling me 20 minutes, you're done.
Yeah. Oh, as far as the clock goes, it's
Yeah.
probably a 40-minute procedure. So I go in, make the
But
diagnosis.
your time to do
My
it.
time. My
Wow.
time. I make the diagnosis, and as you know, there's endodontists and dentists in general that can take a half hour. And I used to do that. I used to want to tell them all the cells that were involved and the clinical diagnosis and all these things. And I think the more I've done this and the more I see patients, how they react and feel, I talk to patients very conversational. It's like,
Yeah.
you have
Keep it
some
simple.
options here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I leave the room, and then the hygienist goes in, gets them numb. Then the assistant tests the tooth to see if they're numb or not. They are. The rubber dam goes on, and then now I'm in, and we go.
It's
And
amazing.
yeah, and again, it's easy to get really good at one thing. And I think what I've noticed with the referral group that sends us patients, they do the same thing in their practice. They're not trying to do implants and oral surgery and endo and pedo and all these things. They've limited their practice down to what they love to
What they
do.
love to do and what they're good at. ISO. Yeah.
Yeah, aesthetics,
Mm-hmm.
veneers and full mouth cases and all those things. That's what these guys light up. They don't want to worry about a toothache. They have,
Mm-hmm.
they have an endodontist to send that to. So, and I see that one dentist shared with me that when she stopped doing root canals, so she was one that would open teeth, send it, and if she could get it done, she would complete the case. But she was always frustrated, just hated endo, but felt like she needed to do it to keep it in house. And she realized that when she stopped, she said, get rid of all my endo stuff, get it out of the practice. Her production went up 30% the full year that she was not doing that, because now she had time to do the crown preps that
Things
we
that
were
she was
doing.
good at.
That's right, that we were doing the root canals on.
Yeah.
And it was just freed up a lot of time for her, and I thought that was great. I'm glad she shared that, because I always thought that the viewpoint was that if I refer something out, I'm
You're
losing
losing production.
income.
Yep.
But when you look at it from the patient's perspective, they really enjoy efficient treatment. And
This is where the hidden gem of verbal skills comes into play. I mean, your emotional intelligence, your ability to communicate effectively with patients in a simple way that doesn't waste time. You can, quote, sell a case in 1 minute and unsell it in 3 minutes. Why are you still talking? Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so we do a lot of verbal skill training with your team. Of course, we do verbal skill training everywhere on phone skills, great call process, on preventing cancellations, talk about an inefficiency, and of course, case acceptance. That's really our niche, and helping people resign from insurance and all these sorts of things, and being more productive and profitable in a fair way. We're not trying to gouge anybody or overcharge or manipulate or do anything without integrity. The goal is to create a win-win environment, and then patients and practices start referring to you. That's the amazing thing. When they do such a great job, it just positivity begets positivity, right?
yeah, well, and I have to share, I've learned a lot from you. One of the things that all these limiting terms, which I just thought was so great, because now we're all sniffing out to see what limiting terms, but I was the key at always saying, looking at the x-ray, oh, you get a little infection down here, the tip of your root. Oh, it's little. Well, that's great. Maybe I should just leave it.
Then we're good for now. Yeah, it's not bothering me. Why would I spend $1,500?
But again, isn't that funny? It's like, here I've been doing this for so long and very
Yeah.
efficient, but yeah, I'm using these terms that almost make the patient go, well, it's little, so
Yeah.
that's not that big a deal.
You'd be surprised at how long the list of limiting terms is when you really understand what they are and how to diagnose and identify them. You're subconsciously using them. You don't even realize it.
Yeah, no, and it's really great awareness to say, how I'm saying things has an effect, and choosing words carefully.
We call it framing. Yeah, call it framing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So thank you for that.
Yeah. What else would you say, hey, this is one thing I really want to share with people out there, to give some, just give them a few nuggets on how to take this, what they're listening to, what they're watching, and say, all right, I'm going to improve my practice just by listening to Dr. Simcock here. What's something else you want to share with them?
Well, I think one of my favorite things is to make sure that everybody that you surround yourself with, whether it be friends, your partner, your team, everything needs to kind of support what you're doing. To have relationships that aren't working, to have staff that you're frustrated with daily, yet it's like, well, it wasn't that bad, I'm just going to go home. And that's energy that's pulled out, and they feel it, you feel it, and then at some point that rustiness in that relationship ends up exploding in not good ways. And I just always want people to know that we can create whatever we want, and with your team and with your your staff on a daily basis, we're always talking about what we want. I want to feel great when I come into the practice. And if you can pick 2 or 3 words that kind of encompass how you always want to feel, it kind of makes the decisions easy on, well, if I want to feel great every time I walk into the office and I'm running into Mary and she doesn't feel great and it's kind of heavy and there's, all these things that are kind of cropping up, you can let that person go just because it doesn't feel great. And you don't really have to have reasons. And I know everybody wants to, have to document things, and certainly certain things need to be documented, but really when it boils down to it, it's okay to change your team and create whatever you want. And you're the owner of this.
Yeah.
And
some people listening, yeah, it's your call. Some people listening to this might think, oh, he's had his team doing, they've trained them for years and years and years of this, but you've gone through the team changes just like anybody else has, right?
I went through, I'll still remember the day, January 4. I had, I think, 10 root canals that day. And at the end of the day, I had to let 4 people go. And it was, not the best feeling in the world, but once that moment was done, I was the most liberated and the happiest, just like, and then of course the chaos was like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Figure it out, but yes.
Yeah, now figure it out. But, never being afraid of change, I think is the key, because you never know what opportunities on the other side, whether change happens outside of your control or whether you choose to make a change. You never know what's on the other side of that. And right now my team feels so great, and that could change. And we're never locked in, but there's a movement with them that is really exciting to me, and I love empowering them to have a career in this business.
Yeah. And you made the right decision when, after those team member changes happen, the rest of the team goes, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I was wondering if you're going to ever do that. I just got off the phone with a client right before you in Pennsylvania, and she's going, I said, well, what's the repercussions from letting that assistant go? And she goes, nobody said anything. Everybody was really positive and happy, moving along. And it's like, the one surefire way to continue to lose great team members is to keep the negative one on board. And you said something there, and I don't remember where I heard this quote, but opportunity only lies on the other side of risk. There's always going to be risk involved with something worth it. And so we have to understand, and it's not just crazy risk, out of control risk, but it's calculated risk. It's like and you talk to your mentor, you talk to your colleagues, you talk to your coach about these things, and you figure it out and you plan it out and you go for it. You, on the other hand, we talked a couple weeks later, you're like, yeah, this happened.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, hey, how come I'm not hearing from so-and-so? So, and then I'll also say this, you mentioned this fear thing. So many people, business owners, so many people live in an approval addicted mind frame. They're trapped in that mind frame. Approval addiction is a very, very real thing. And it is something that you can overcome. It's something that I've worked through over the last 2 decades in my training and what I train leaders on and doctors on and team members on. And if you're living in fear about a decision, that's not right. That's not healthy. That has to be navigated. Why do you fear that? Simple things, restrictive insurance. I'm living in fear of restrictive insurance because I'm worried about what's going to happen if I make this change. Well, one of my mentors, John Maxwell, he doesn't know it. He doesn't know it, but he's one of my mentors, right? He really talks about risk and growth and the comparison and how you weigh that out. And you really aren't going to get growth without risk. It just doesn't happen. And so your mind is talking to you. Your approval addiction is talking to you. What is it saying? Are you paying attention to those words? Oh, you could never do that. You could never do 11 root canals in one day.
You can never be free of restrictive insurance. Those are the things that we got to decide. What voice are we feeding here? And if it's the fear voice, that's going to always suppress you into the level of which you can achieve. It's going to hold you back. But if you open, you can always go back to the old way of doing things. You can always go back, right?
And I love that, because, it really does come down to being able to let yourself off the hook and just look at this as just, I'm gonna try this now.
Yeah.
And give it full force. And if that doesn't work, failure is just this idea that we put in there. And if you're a type A personality or a perfectionist background, fear is a killer.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely a killer of creativity and possibilities and all those things. And so, focusing more on excellence, excellence means I can drop things, make a huge mess. And it's how we pick that up and keep moving. And so I've always wanted to coach my team that we want to be excellent. We're never going to be perfect. That's just the rule. But fear is something, to really look at, and really to step through fear. Like, I was afraid of letting those 4 people go. But really what was true is it was just the resistance to what the truth was. And the truth is that they needed to go. There was a bad, and as soon as I made that intention that I was going to do this, I felt absolutely rock solid.
Yeah.
It still wasn't easy to change people's lives like that, but they needed to go.
And they'll be happier somewhere else. They'll be a better fit somewhere else too. There's also that side of, hey, you might also be doing someone a favor where they have a success story on their own, and they may not feel it right now, but they will be. And I've been a part of that. And it's no fun. That's not what we're suggesting here is the answer. Although I will side plug All-Star hiring services.
Yeah.
contact All-Star Dental Academy if you need to hire. We're doing a phenomenal job at finding people for dental offices all over the country. So
that is the only way to go. Why we as dentists think that we're HR departments and can go through the applications and resumes and figure out who's what and what, give it to somebody to do, and they give you 2 or 3 resumes, and you're going to love each of them and just pick a personality you like. So absolutely. Highly recommend that. Yeah.
So you've inspired me to remind me of some sayings that I love. So life experience is a great educator, only occurs in growth if you evaluate it. You cannot just have life experience, running the brick wall. You have to actually take a step back and say, why am I running this brick wall? And you got to change and adapt. So I love that. The second thing is, I'd also say that I'm reminded of is there are plenty of successful people who've had people around them that didn't believe in them. But there are no successful people who didn't believe in themselves. And that goes back to the approval addiction and feeling confident in yourself and knowing that, hey, I believe that I can make a difference in this. Does my team believe it? Are they on board? My patients see that confidence in me, or do they see somebody who's self-doubting all the time? Because that's going to create wavering. It's going to create doubt. It's going to create a tumbling effect. You want to be moving upwards. Growth is a constant incline. There is no coasting. There's no, oh, I made it, I'm just going to relax now. It's, oh, new team member. Oh, train. Oh, new idea, new concept, change this. I mean, do you feel that way? I mean, you've been doing this for so long. Do you feel like you're on a constant incline?
Yeah. And I guess I just made the decision a long time ago, and I can get tripped up on anything, but we're humans. But I made the decision a long time ago that I just didn't want to feel tension, fear, or being upset in the practice. And so you really have to check in with yourself as you're going through your day, because all of a sudden you might feel yourself tense up about something. But if you don't have that awareness, you just carry that tension into the next one, and then something else happens. And pretty soon by the end of the day, we're so exhausted that we just can't wait to get out the door. And what I think is great is just to be aware of how we're feeling why are we taking this so seriously?
And that moves, and then you transpire that into your culture guide.
Yeah.
You have a team meeting that we take you through, and you go through, what is our culture here? What are we going to live by? And then my post today, in fact, for social media was an all-star client who we went through culture elements with, and we helped them figure out what their culture was. And they put it on the wall, and they put it in glass, like this frame, like this thing. And it's like, we're living by this. Now, it's not something that patients see, it's theirs.
Yeah.
But there's accountability in that. And this is who we are. And it also says who we're not going to be. We're not going to be drained. And that's where people don't fall in love with what they do.
Yeah, and it was 85% of people hate their jobs.
Wow.
And I'm just like, isn't that sad? That's almost 9 people out of 10 that just don't like what they're doing. And and in my mind, it's like, that's mindset to me. I think
Yep.
we can learn to love anything.
Yep.
You might choose to do something different, but we can learn to love what we do. And I think falling in love with endodontics again, and just the whole process of that is what this is all about. And yeah, I get tripped up, I'll get, a patient will just do something or
challenged.
Yeah. And I realize, oh, okay, that's something new to put in my tool belt.
There you go. There you go. That the competition might challenge you, motivate you. It shouldn't frustrate you. Right. And I mean, we see it all. You said it, people love animals. They love their animals. They love their stepchildren. They love their adopted children. They even love their biological children. Your spouses. I mean, we learn to love things. And I'll say this, when you love your team, it is a verb. It is an action. You are loving them. When you love what you do, right, it's now a belief. It's now something that you're telling yourself to do. It's a status. It's a state of being. So those are two different things to think about. Love has some different ways to go, but I'm going to be loving to my team. I'm going to love what I do. Define what that looks like, create your vision, and then go for it. And this has been really good. I really, really appreciate your time, Dr. Simcock. This is awesome. Yeah.
Talk about this stuff all day.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I appreciate your willingness just to help others so much. I know you do that. I know you're not just an endodontist. I know you have this in your capability. So I really appreciate you taking the time. And when you said you were willing to be on the podcast, I was super pumped. So this is great.
Well, I love sitting and talking with you anytime. So that's always good.
This is great. So thank you everyone for joining us and really taking the time out of your schedule to invest in yourself. And so that All Star Dental Academy is ready to help you. And if you're interested in anything we offer, hiring services, coaching, like we're talking about, you just email Heather. You send an email to heather@allstardentalacademy.com. We will be happy to help you, just talk with you and figure things out and decide if there's something we can support you with. That's what we're here for. So as well as Dr. Simcock, he's out there ready to help as well. So thank you for joining us and taking the time to invest in yourself. And until next time, go out there and be an all-star.